Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Welcome to We show. My name is Rick Ulfik, and I'm the founder of We the World and the We campaign at we.net. We the World is a global coalition building organization with 11 campaigns for change. You can take action with us by going to we.net. We have 3 goals: to inspire, inform, and involve you and millions of others around the world, of course, in creating a world that works for all. That's 3 I's: inspire, inform, and involve, that make a we. So we can go from a me society to a we society. Today, we have some amazing, extraordinary guests: Robert Levine, Shannon CrossBear, John Raymer, Milagros Phillips, and Chief Phil Lane Jr. And today we introduce a new regular section of the Welcome to We show, which will be focused on We the World's magazine, Trends in Global Grassroots Organizing. At this moment of political discord and social turmoil in the USA and many other countries, when millions of people are frightened about their future and wondering where our society is headed, we think it's crucial to know who is doing what for people and the planet, and how you can get involved. That's what Trends magazine is all about. So let's bring in our first 2 guests. Robert Levine is the editor of Trends magazine, and during the Trends segments, he will talk with authors featured in the magazine. Today, it will be Shannon CrossBear, a spiritual Ojibwe Irish woman who is We the World's Interdependence campaign coordinator. Welcome to the broadcast, Robert Levine and Shannon CrossBear.
Thank you so much, Rick. I'm so happy to be here, to be sharing this space with you, with all of the wonderful guests. And I'm always especially thrilled to be able to share and spend time with Shannon. Shannon, her contribution to We the World, as you could share, has been immense. She's a vital part of the We campaign. As Rick mentioned, she is our coordinator for the Interdependence campaign. But in addition to all the work she's been doing, she's been a regular contributor to Trends with a unique voice and a unique perspective. We've had the good fortune to be able to share her essays as well as her poetry, as well as the poet who made a contribution a few issues ago. So in this issue, which is coming out, the December to February issue of Trends, a piece of Shannon's is appearing in the human rights section. She gives a very open, honest look and perspective at the declaration of the Native Awareness Month, of the Native American Awareness Month, over the many years, as a way to deal with our troubled history, and the oppression that so many peoples and nations have been subjected to. There has been a movement to quote unquote honor those various groups. So we have African American History Month, we have Women's Month, we have Asian Pacific Month, and we have Native American Awareness Month. But Shannon has a very powerful perspective on that, and a fresh look that I'm so glad she's here to share with us. So Shannon, if you could share with us about your article.
Well, thanks, Robert. First, Anin and Dway Maganak, Nagijnaka Wabagonis. I just wanted to greet you as my relatives and to have a good evening here together. That's important. That's part of our protocol of how we start in a good way, to let you know who I am. My English name is Shannon CrossBear, and I'm on the homelands of the Lake Superior Ojibwe peoples. And so that's, kind of the perspective that I was coming at when I wrote the article. I can't help it, it's my life, right? And so, yeah, and it kind of started, I ended up having a reaction. I was with a group of people who were talking about Native American Heritage Month and what they were going to do for, their contribution to that. And it just struck me about how, while elevating our presence, because we're basically an invisible population, at the same time we're elevating our presence, there isn't a whole lot that happens around that. And I was also struck even by the naming of Native American Heritage Month. I mean, that day, it just kind of hit me, because we're always having, what do we call ourselves? Are we Indigenous? Are we Native American? Are we American Indian, Alaskan Native? What is the terminology? Are we First Nations people? What is the terminology that we're using? And I just even thought about how recognizing the hurt, even in that, because our languages were taken away. What we called ourselves was taken away. And, how do we begin to, when we talk about dismantling racism and we talk about how we're moving together, how do we do that? How do we really kind of unlayer and get to kind of those basic things, not for blame and shame, because that gets us nowhere. But people when they are felt blamed or shamed, they get paralyzed, right? It's a fear response that we all have as human beings. And so how do we move to a place where we can have these honest acknowledgements about the hurt and the harm that is taking place, so that together we can move forward, right? And so, part of that is being able to speak our truth. And some of speaking our truth, they're hard truths for people to hear about, what it means to take a person's language away, what it means to take their children away. How if you're willing to hurt the Mother Earth, you're willing to hurt anything, because you're hurting life. And so, and it seems really critical at this point in time that we have places where we can express that and have those conversations, because we are in this process of healing, right? I mean, we either collectively move forward or we don't. And it's kind of that, we're at that urgency of understanding about how we need to get to those places. So this was just one little piece of kind of how to start to engage in that conversation and recognize that even, for us as a population, we're such a small percentage of the population. And yet we have valuable contributions to make in order to move us all forward, as does everybody. But I was thinking about this today, Robert, because I was thinking about how do we go back and, and we're in a dual situation as a peoples, where we're in our own decolonization at the same time of helping those others that have been colonized, because that's a dual kind of responsibility that we have. And in that decolonization, we too are discovering the only difference is that we're closer to the immediacy of the experience than many other peoples, because this country was founded on that. So,
right. And I think you bring up something that's so very important. We know so little about the history of the First Nations, even of our own nation, to the extent that even the founders of this nation, the Europeans who founded the Constitution, based their ideas on the concepts and the beliefs that they found from among the First Nations. And it wasn't always such an imbalanced situation. When the first Europeans came here, they learned so much from the people that were currently living on this continent. So it was more of an equal relationship. And which is what makes your article so important, because we need to learn. We need to know the stories. We need to learn the history and the present in order to go forward. One of your pieces that I found particularly heart-rendering when you were speaking about language and the schools and how and if you could speak a little bit about that, about how the children were basically denied their language. And we've done that to many, even including to deaf children. So if you could speak on that a little.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if everybody just thinks about how important it is about how we define ourselves, and any people that have ever spoken another language other than their birth language, when they think about it, they know if you speak another language for a while, you begin to think in that language, that it really affects the way that you see the world. And so to take away someone's language is to take away their worldview, their view of the world, the view of themselves. If what I grew up was calling myself by our original tongue names, I would be calling myself a human being. I'm a human being. But no, I'm called, Native American or American Indian or Alaskan Native or worse. Some really, the derogatory terms that were used incorporated into our own self-talk over time. It's so harmful when we have that kind of talk, and we're just learning about it, but it's so pervasive in all of our kinds of experiences, like even the way that we talk about populations. Even when we don't really say specialized, but we talk about target populations. Oh, we're going to work with this target population. What the heck are you doing talking about people like targets? And then you wonder what kind of world we live in. So this idea of language, I had many of my elders won't speak English. And not because they couldn't, but because for so long they were denied their own language. And when they spoke their language, Joe Flying By told me he was from Standing Rock, and Grandpa Joe, he's passed now, but he used to tell me, I'm laughing because he spoke Lakota and I speak a scattering of Lakota, but I speak Ojibwe, and we would get together, but we would still communicate. But he would refuse to speak English, not because he said there were too many hurtful words in English. And so he chose not to use that language. But so I think this idea of what we do when we take language, and what would it look like if we created a language in our world of love and support, and what would that mean? What would that look like? So I think this idea of language is so important as we kind of learn how to, maybe I'm on the path of articulation or something, I don't know.
No, I think you make such a critical point, because another author in trends pointed out in an article, when we think about some of the words we use, like even kill it, or, that are words of violence, and we use them much too casually. And as you know, of course, language is culture. If you destroy somebody's language, you basically destroy their culture. And you destroy, as you so eloquently put it, you really destroy them as well.
Yeah. If I define myself as a human being and have to redefine myself under something that has no connection to me, what happens there, right?
Great. Shannon, it is always a pleasure and a blessing to speak with you. And I encourage everyone, go onto Trends, read all of our articles, but especially take a look at Shannon's contributions. They're very special. So thank you. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Rick.
Thanks.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Shannon. This is fabulous, and the start of our regular segment on trends for the Welcome to We show. So now, let me, okay. I just want to show everyone else on the panel here. So coming up now, we have three more extraordinary people who will discuss Enlightening Our Way Together, The Longest Night, and MLK, 40 Days of Peace, and maybe reveal a little bit about why they are so passionate about the amazing work that they are doing. John Raymer is founder of the Compassion Games and the SINE network, which stands for Synergize Impact Network Exchange. Milagros Phillips is known as the Race Healer. She's also a coach, a speaker, and an author. And Chief Phil Lane Jr. is founder of Four Worlds International Institute and has been like a mentor and just doing very important work over the years for many different communities of which we are a part. So welcome to the broadcast, John Raymer, Milagros Phillips, and Chief Phil Lane Jr. John, would you like to start maybe to put things in context, especially regarding the events that are coming up this month, the Longest Night, Enlightening Your Way Together, but then eventually get to MLK 40 Days of Peace, because all of us on this, on the show today are involved with that, because We the World is one of the partners for that. But go ahead, John. And you are muted. The
Thank
four
you.
most used words during the COVID experience, you are on mute.
I thought it'd be good for everyone to be told that. There you go. It's always working. No, but I thought we should build on what Shannon was saying. There's such a thread here, okay? We have these amazing events, but
Yes.
such an important sensitivity that the way we think about things shows up in the way we speak about things. And the way we speak about things are the way we do things in the world. So there's a massive learning project that I've been on, and I'm still on. My world changed. I grew up in New York City, but I moved out here, and when the Dalai Lama visited in 2008, Brother Phil and I started a journey. And I did not appreciate, it's important, Robert, thank you for the work you're doing on trends, what you're saying too about, what is language? It is a really profound question of our time. I used to think it was just symbolic representation of ideas in our minds. And someone said, no, it's not really what it is. And it's conceals and reveals. And the story of separation and the story of the way we've been living, it's no surprise we end up where we are. Whereas from the indigenous world, there is no separation. There isn't this other. And the sacred self intellect and those concepts are so vital right now because we brought the ownership model. We brought the idea that, and in our language, that we're going to trade and orchestrate the way we're going to take resources and turn them into dollars. And the ownership versus stewardship model, it's clear now that we can't play that way anymore. And it's been a great humbling. Someone used the term the other day, human supremacy, that somehow we're above nature. And that's just gonna not float. We're seeing it, as everyone's been predicting who knows about these things, is that the way we've been living is wrecking the place. So the idea of returning to an indigenous, and I respect, Shannon, the challenge you say about what to name of all these different tribes that we are. But we're all lost at sea right now. We don't know how we're going to make it from here to a world that can sustain itself. These are unprecedented challenges. And the need to heal is so clear. For me to heal myself, to be able to be a good relative to everybody here and to be the best I can be, that's a work in progress. So you got two amazing folks here with me. One who I'm getting to know and admire and respect the work of Milagros Phillips and what she's been doing for years around racial equity and this whole conversation about understanding race and healing And Brother Phil, who was one of the great humanitarians of our time. And it's exactly like Shannon was saying, if there's a population that knows something about healing, oh my God. And you know, Phil and I have traveled many places around the world. It's always those people that are most willing to forgive and are the most generous, the people who you would think have the most grudge. But we don't know how to learn. We don't know how to heal, how to make safe spaces to let all this out. And there's a lot of hurt. And one of the most important things I've learned from the indigenous world is that we need to empty. We need safe and supportive places to empty. Without that, we don't stand a chance. The inauthenticity of everyone just out for themselves, playing the same old game is not going to work. This is a massive disruption. So thank God, you know, the Eighth Fire Prophecy says instead of one way or the other, it's not pushing forward. It's really turning back to remember what we lost along the trail. There was a knowledge and there is a sensitivity about how to live here on Earth. But us who are settlers here don't know how to do that. And it's okay. Maybe we shouldn't be ashamed of the fact that we've done some terrible things and we don't quite know how to get it all to work yet. I'm in. We'll learn. Let's learn from these amazing folks, Rick. I'm so grateful for you and the show, and I'm so grateful for the relationship with them and to share it with the world. This is medicine, social medicine. The 4 most popular words in the world, I say to you now, okay.
So we have the Enlightening Our Way coming up. And then the Longest Night, I think is.
That's part of it.
It's part
The
of it.
18th to the 20th, Brother Phil has been hosting. It's an indigenous-led gathering, a convergence online, starting on the 18th to 22nd. So connected to the prophecies, the reunion of the Quetzal and the Condor and the Eagle. And it happens during solstice, and there's much, the sacred fire is going to be lit. I mean, Phil can tell you. But that's happening. Milagros is going to come to talk about the work on MLK, and we'll get to that later.
Exactly. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that, Brother Phil, and also
Yes.
react to anything that you heard Shannon or John say, or Robert or myself up to this point?
Yes, well, I was really nice, Shannon, Sister Shannon, to hear the name of my good uncle, Dekshi, Joe Flying By. I went down that way back in 1980, started sun dancing down there with Isaac Dog Eagle and all those relatives down that way, and Pete Catches and so forth. So, you know, when we always know in our indigenous world, we can always reach out. It's so small, and we have our common elders that we all know. So it's really honored to meet you very much, to hear your good words, and I look forward to hear your writings. Of course, Milagros, your beauty of your work of bringing us together as a human family precedes you. Your brother John reflected it so beautifully. It seemed like when I met you, I'd known you for a long time. And of course, thank you, Robert, just getting to know you. And in fact, Rick, you've just been, how do I say it? You just keep coming. You just keep coming. Day after day after day after day after day, week after week after month after month. You know, we're really thankful that we're living at the time of the fulfillment of all the sacred prophecies, but not only of our indigenous people across the Americas, but everywhere in the world. And I want to say that the foundation of enlightening our way together is the understanding of the prior unity and oneness of our human family in all life. And the hurt of one is the hurt of all, and the honor of one is the honor of all. That we, in fact, from the very beginning, however far back we want to go, that has no beginning even, have always been human beings. And that we need, I believe at this time, to reorient ourselves completely in a new way. And that is to understand, first of all, that each of us, when we're born in this physical plane of time and space, is born as sovereignty, ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. And we're in the process of becoming universal human beings. We're beginning to become universal spiritual beings. And our soul has no gender, race, ethnicity, or class. This reality makes all forms of prejudice, whatever they may be, intolerable and unacceptable. The soul is not divided. It is a reflection of the oneness of our Creator. All the powers that distinguishes us as human beings, reason, memory, abstract thought, creativeness, inventiveness, willpower, are all properties of our soul, not our bodies. And so I think to know when Chief Seattle said there is no death, just a change of worlds. And so we know that scholars now have confirmed this very clearly at the time when we inevitably came together, the world's round. We're very curious as human beings. It was inevitable for us all to come together. That there was somewhere between 100 to 112 million indigenous people living across the Americas. And through large part disease, but also the colonial process that went on all over the world, we were reduced down to probably 15 million. But when I say that, we are not this earth suit. We're not this earth suit. Just like in the womb, we're growing in our womb suit, we're growing our arms and legs and eyes and ears in order to experience this physical plane of existence. And so another perspective is we're here in this earth suit, growing my spiritual arms and legs and eyes and ears. And you might say, this is a womb world that I'm living in right now under the next. But can you imagine the difference between the womb world we were in within our mother's womb, in that constriction, in which really all the things that we were growing and developing had no really much value in the womb, our eyes, our lungs, our legs, but yet in just this transformation process, all of a sudden, boom, I'm born into this world that's so vast. And even though those around me knew I was going to come into this world, or any one of us here prior to our birth, we had no idea. But to think that the worlds beyond this world are as great are as great in reference, are as great in comparison as these worlds we live in right here. This thing called to the womb of the baby's mother's womb. Wow. So that's what Enlightening Our Way Together is about. Really, the time of the prophecies is here. And from the 11th to the 22nd, we celebrated last year. On the 22nd, we celebrated the fulfillment of a prophecy called the day that shall not be followed by night. And that's where we are. We are in that day that shall not be followed by night. Without question, I believe with all my soul and heart, and I believe more and more people are believing that by 2030, we can begin world peace, which will be signalized by a binding treaty of all the nation states of Mother Earth to have no more war. No more war. Now, what's going to cause this to happen? I don't know. But we do know, without question, that a new global civilization is unfolding upon Mother Earth, and there's no power in heaven and earth that's going to stop that from happening. And one of those things that we're focusing on right now as Indigenous people is the building of an alternative to the current system. So that's what we're really focusing on, especially on the Amazon. So we're going to have a wonderful events. Last year, we went from 11th to 22nd. It'll be from the 18th through the 22nd. We've got sacred fires burning in the Amazon that'll be the same sisters, Amazonian sisters will be burning their fires there be fires in the air, clear from Argentina all the way up the Americas. Diane Longboat will be conducting a fire in their longhouse there on the eastern gates. There'll be sacred fires, and we're inviting all to join us. It'll start off with the drums around the world at 11/11 on the 18th. So at 11/11, everywhere in the world, wherever it is, 24 hours, there'll be these drums going on. So we really believe 2022 is going to be an incredible year, just an incredible year. It's going to be a great year. And it's going to be something like we have never, ever experienced before as a human family, ever in history. Because where we're at is we've never seen in history. And the only way that we see to follow that is these guiding principles the elders gave us. They said, follow these guiding principles, and you will arrive in oneness. And that's the best we're doing. So just share that much. Whoa, just now 333. Oh, that sounds weird. But you know, I run into these things where you run into these numbers. I don't know if you see that too, but sometimes you just see these numbers, the same numbers, a 444, a 333. Everywhere you look, 222. Then you think maybe I'm going nuts. Anyway, thank you for your kindness of listening.
Rick, I hate to
Here we
say.
go again.
Okay.
I'm trying to be a good Zoom citizen, mute myself when I'm not talking. So, do you want to say anything, John, about the longest night? And that's like a Unity Earth project, right? Or
Well, I
third
just want to,
initiative?
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Say what a joy it is to hear you, Brother Phil. I'm so happy Milagros is getting to know you this way. And the playfulness and the spirit and the dedication and commitment. And yeah, I mean, Unity Earth is one of our core partners in all this, as you know, Rick, with We the World, and the list goes on and on. And the longest night, which is about embracing our grief and celebrating light, is baked right into enlightening our way together. So that solstice, and you know, it's not so easy because it's some people it's the longest day, others people it's the longest night. We can't even all agree on when it starts. Okay. The other day, the rabbi made the clear point to me. He said, but that's not the darkest night. That's the night of the new moon. So, okay, so there's the longest day and the longest night happen, but that's not the darkest night. So it's just so funny how this is, but it's all happening together. And we want everyone to come there. The world is grieving like we never have. If someone was measuring the grief on earth, it would be off the charts. Every day we're waking up to more of this same situation. So why not come together? We know we're better together. And I want to hear from Milagros. So yes, that's happening during Enlightening Our Way Together on the 21st. And we'll drop in the chat and put it on Facebook so people know how to get there. Walking the Red Road is where you can go for both the events.
Yeah, and I definitely want to hear from Milagros too. And right before we get to Milagros, do you want to say anything about what we're working towards with the MLK 40 Days of Peace and the, you know, what for us, for We the World, we call that MLK manifesting the dream, or at least our convergence and our collection of events that we are doing, we're calling, you know, MLK manifesting the dream in terms of carrying forward the work and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. in a variety of areas that fit all of the different campaigns that we have, you know, poverty, about his work with poverty, racism, militarism, creating beloved community, nonviolence, and, you know, his whole constellation of things. But anyway,
No, we're so grateful.
you were the source of this with the Compassion Games.
Yeah, thank you. Well, just say that Brother Phil is also the chairman of the Compassion Games. So we started that together years ago. And we were honored that, Rick, you're a grantee and your work is so essential to all this. I mean, the words of Martin Luther King are so prescient. They're so timely. It's amazing. Look at this bridge from the darkness that we're talking about to the love that's needed in the world. It was MLK who said, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. So the vision that Brother Phil had for the 22nd of December is to talk about what we're doing in 2022. And beloved community is the best phrase I've got to describe the kind of way of being with each other that is open enough to do the kind of healing we need to hear about the pain that we're feeling, and to find a way to heal those wounds together and to move together in beloved community. So it's great privilege. The Compassion Games, we're a grantee of the Corporation for National Community Services, and we support teams all over. And Milagros is going to be giving a talk in Washington, D.C. at a bookstore there on the 16th about her amazing work. And she's agreed to be a co-host with us during the MLK convergence that happens. So we do these online gatherings, like Enlightening Our Way Together, in January around Martin Luther King's birthday. That weekend is the day of service on the 17th. So we'll be convening online, and we need everyone to show up. And not only do we need everyone to show up because it's not a day off, as they'd say about MLK's day of service, it's a day on. And we need to reach out to each other, even just to check in on each other, but also let people know there's a message of love and compassion, and a group of folks who are finding their way in this crazy new world. And they're doing a lot of it online. So we'll be there. Did I answer what you asked me to do? I hope I did. I want to hear from
You
Milagros.
always do. So, yes. So Milagros, do you want to tell us a little bit about your work? And I'm looking forward to hearing more about your work, and also maybe collaborating with you more directly during the 40 days of peace. So what you're starting off with co-hosting with John, that sounds fabulous. And want to hear more. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Rick. So lovely. I loved your words, Shannon. So thank you so much, because I do believe that words matter. Years ago, I used to do a program called What We Hear as Children Counts, because we store those words and they become part of who we are, you know. So thank you so much for that. And Robert, thank you so much. I really appreciated your conversation with Shannon. John, you're such a dear. I can't tell you how much I appreciate who you are. And Chief Phil, please, it's just, I'm so honored to be here with you, and so thankful for your words as well. So really happy to be here with all of you. So unbeknownst to you, and particularly to you, John, because we've been in conversation about MLK, on the 10th of January, I'm doing a program called Are We Living the Dream? Dr. MLK's dream. And I know that you don't know about that. And after George Floyd was murdered last year, I knew that people were just consciously and openly traumatized. So I started a program that went on every week for over a year to help people move through that trauma, to name it, to call it, to look at the historical context of that trauma, as well as what they had just experienced. And that went on for a while. And it was a weekly program, which I'm now doing as a monthly program. And so that's what this MLK program on January 10th is. We call it Race Literacy Lunch and Learn. So that's one of the things that I'm doing during that time frame. And as you mentioned, I'm going to be speaking at Busboys and Poets in Washington, D.C., and talking about healing and transformation based on my book, Cracking the Healer's Code. My work really is grounded in how we heal as mind, body, spirit, and emotions. How do we treat the whole being? How do we get the information that we get to move from our heads to our hearts? which is where the transformation really takes place. And so a lot of my work is grounded in looking at history, looking at intergenerational and historical trauma, looking at its impact on all of us as a human family, and how we begin and continue to walk that journey of healing for the rest of our lives. Really, it's not one and done, right? It's continuous learning. So all of my work is really based on that. You know, how do we get information that leads to transformation? What are the missing pieces that we need in order to have a deeper understanding, to become more committed to our healing process? And how do we support each other in that healing and that transformation as one human family living on one global village, where everything that we do affects everyone else in that village? So, so that's really, you know, that's pretty much the basis of my work. In February, during Black History Month, I'm doing a 15-week program that's based on cracking the healer's code. And it's 15 weeks of walking through the healing process, stage by stage. It's a program that I've done for 20 years, and people find it to be amazingly powerful and transformative. It's the 15-week program is called Living Race Healers Code. And it really is about looking at how everyone in the human family has been traumatized, and how we're not always conscious of that trauma. And yet we bring that trauma to everything we do and everywhere we go. You know, some of you mentioned earlier the language of war, which is, you know, very prominent. You know, we wage wars against everything. The war against racism, the war against poverty, everything's about war. And what I realized was that racism exists in that energy of war. It's a constant attack on human beings. It's violation and violence. And so for me, if we're going to heal, it's important to create a sacred space of love where people can come and dismantle the conditioning that we've received over 500 years and really look at the violence that we've been party to and that sometimes we collude with without even being conscious that we're doing it. And how do we begin to create really an essence of love where there's a sacred space where people can actually heal, where we can love each other into wholeness. So all of the work that I do is based on that. And of course, you're all welcome to join at any given point in time. I would love to have you in these conversations.
That's so beautiful. Thank you, Milagros. And look, so many interesting things coming up. And a lot of them are starting during the MLK 40 Days of Peace. And I find it so, what a synchronistic thing that you are going to start on the 10th, January 10th. Are we living the dream? And then, you know, our collection of programs is about manifesting the dream. So your question can move right into the answers, right?
Well, now, Rick, didn't you say before we started the show that you wanted something new to emerge here?
I want to move into that segment.
Well, I just want to point that right there, because
yes,
Milagros just this morning agreed to be the co-host during the whole MLK expression. I didn't know about 110, as she said here. Of course, I wrote that down. So, oh my God, that's such an important event to prepare us for that. And then your point about I just want to just name the obvious here. This is magic at work. It's nice when it shows up.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
and it's so funny, John, because we spoke this, I had completely forgotten about that program. We were going through all the programs that we set up for last year, because I set that program up about 3 months ago. And so.
And that's why during Enlightening Our Way Together, the honoring of Martin Luther King is such a key dimension, and why we were there and did ceremonies to honor him on the beginning of his weekend, because there's no other human being on Mother Earth that stood up more for indigenous peoples of the United States, and of course, which led on to other places, but Native Americans, than Martin Luther King, clear back in 1955, when he made an incredible statement, the first ever recorded, where somebody came out with the strength and the truth of what happened to indigenous people here, Native Americans. And so that's another connection I see, a really vital connection that I see happening. And by the way, I think it has to happen between all of us as members of the human family. But at the same time, I think that once you have a stage of differentiation, that is, you begin to see and understand your community's intergenerational trauma, lateral violence, so forth and so on, internalized oppression, then comes the stage of integration. And then comes, of course, the differentiation, where we're beyond it all. But this integrative stage is here. And I think that especially I see it's been going on a long time. I've been part of it since 1978. And that is the coming together of indigenous peoples of Africa and the Americas. I mean, seeing that common experience. This, by the way, this is please not excluding anyone any more than this right to have a sacred women's society, or women coming together and talking together, or men coming together and talking together. It's a process, and so I see that there's a lot of healing to be done there because of what happened in the Chickasaw Nation. We had those that owned slaves, and we had those that were against having slaves. So those are real situations that we have to address as indigenous people, but also, as human beings. And I'm sure it's been something that has been repeated throughout history in one form or another.
Absolutely.
For all of us.
Yeah. I was born and pretty much raised in the Dominican Republic, and which is the first place where Columbus landed. And the actual name is Quisqueya, which is the name that the natives, the Taínos and the Caribs that lived on that island had given to that island. And it really, the awakening and the understanding of that was the beginning of that journey. And then giving words to things that are different. People were enslaved. They were not slaves. The Creator gives us our freedom the moment we're born. When that umbilical cord gets cut right after you come out of your mom, that's the Creator giving us our freedom. And so just really having that deeper understanding of who we are and how we're connected, how the first Africans that were taken from the continent were brought to the Dominican Republic. So they were trafficked, just really using language that people can understand and identify with today. They were trafficked to work on the labor camps that were the sugarcane plantations and the cotton plantations in the Dominican Republic as early as 1509. So, as soon as Columbus went back, and the doctrine was reactivated, that all of these nations that were there with all of these natives, the native Australians, the native Africans who had been colonized since the early 1400s, the Native Americans in North, Central, and South America, in Canada, just really owning the Native Australians, just really owning that we are this one human family. Life is a continuum, and we are the descendants of all of those people. Mm-hmm. And they are now asking us, they sent us here now to do this work so that we can make it better for the next generation. Mm-hmm. And so for me, this work is the modeling of, how do we begin to create a loving society where everyone can bring forth their gifts and everyone can thrive?
Exactly. And so we've kind of entered our next kind of phase of the show, which is our kind of roundtable discussion. And I want to get to that question that we do on the Welcome to We show each time, which is to discuss what can we do together that we can't do on our own. And we've started to do that, but with the particular idea of, maybe it's like a challenge, to create something new out of our coming together today on this show that could become a seed idea for something that we can develop going forward. Any ideas about this? And we want to hear from Robert. We haven't heard from you in a while. If you want to react to anything and any ideas going forward, and then Shannon.
Yeah, I will jump on for a second, Rick, because unfortunately, as you know, I need to be off in a few minutes to make another commitment. But I think everyone here has been raising a critical point of being open, being understanding, having a dialogue, being direct, being heartfelt, to be open to any discussion, to any ideas, to sharing those ideas. The dialogue is essential. We need to be able to talk to each other. And talking to each other can be wonderful. It can also be rather troubling. It can be painful, but that's part of the dialogue. That's how we grow. And I think everyone here is sharing in that, being open and loving. And you could say things that are critical, things that someone might take as harsh, but if it's done with an open, loving heart, with the intention of growth and sharing, it's a very powerful tool.
It is. And being the editor of Trends in Global Grassroots Organizing, you're facilitating these kinds of conversations through that medium, which is so important. And you're allowing people to have their voice heard in a different kind of way, right, Robert?
Oh, and it's an honor because I get to work with such amazing people as well as yourself. So it's truly a joy, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Robert. Any thoughts, Shannon, on anything anybody said? And any ideas about what we might do that we haven't done together to, starting here today on this show?
Well, first of all, it's just, I feel like I'm just in the presence of greatness. And I so appreciate the work that each one of you is doing in the world. And I'm just, what I used to say, and I still say, is I'm just a res grandma from the northern Minnesota on the border. And, and here I am having this conversation because what you do affects me and my family and the larger world. And so, and all the things, all the places where those interactions are happening, from trauma-informed language to intergenerational healing, to we're in this together, to all the 4 directions, the 4 colors of mankind, how we're coming together, all of these things. And I'm struck, I was thinking earlier today, and because I was thinking about how inspired I've been personally by the movement Idle No More, which started out in one place, but really expanded on this idea of sovereignty and responsibility. So it's really about the individual responsibility for the collective outcome. And, in order to do that, knowing and embracing who we are and respecting each other. So I see all kinds of opportunities to work together, especially as we talk about this world house, right? That Martin Luther King talked about, this world house, and how all of those stories intersect with each other. A number of years ago, one of my friends from Pine Ridge, she used to say, we were at this meeting and there was a whole bunch of people there and they were going to break out. But what they were talking about was families, but families that had mental health issues, families that were involved with the juvenile justice system, families that were involved with the welfare system. And, and they wanted to break out. And the family said, no, that's not the way we live. That's not the way we live. That's Wapshkiwe. That's That's a European way where they get in a big house and they go into their separate rooms and they close the doors. And they have information for each other. Because if a family is involved with one of those systems, the likelihood of it being involved with all of those systems is pretty darn high. And they're going to need each other's information and support as they go through that. So I think about us as we are moving into what this we thing about what is it that we can tap into that collective wisdom, because that is what it's going to take. And John, I just want to say how important I think this is in terms of grieving. We do need to recognize and honor grief. You know, I unfortunately have had a lot of experience with grief in my life. And one of the things that I've learned is that, you know, that sorrow is sacred. And there is a sacredness that comes from that sorrow that allows us to heal. And when we think about water as life and sacredness, what more sacred is there than the water that comes from our eyes? And those tears are healing, and we need that individually and collectively. So we can feel, you know, what we need to feel for what has happened, and we can then move to what is going to happen. And I think we're not in the, I think we're moving from the doctrine of discovery to the doctrine of recovery. And that's where we need to be. So I'm all for a new doctrine, and that's what I want to employ. And I'm looking forward to it. So thanks, Rick, for this wonderful opportunity. And for Chief, it's good to be in the same virtual space with you at this moment in time. So thank you, and thanks for listening.
Certainly, thank you. Any other thoughts before we wrap it up? Chief, you want to say anything?
It's just that the reality is the prior unity and oneness of our human family in all life, and the hurt of one is a hurt of all, and the healing and revitalization of one is the healing and revitalization of all. I mean, that's the basics right there. That's the foundation of the new global civilizations unfolding. And that's, you know, what I would say is that I certainly am wanting to learn and experience more and more every day.
That sounds very much like we consciousness to me.
Well, you know, Rick, the thought that came to me is I'm learning so much here and reminded again of what I need to learn more about. But this idea of that sovereignty in our individuality and how we can evolve. I told you the other day that space beyond we, where it comes back to each of us. And what Milagros said, I thought was so important, is it's modeling it. We just have to do it right here with us. Literally, because all these actions happen locally. They can scale regionally and synchronize globally, but it's starting right here, right now, starting from within, working in that circle in a sacred manner. We heal and develop ourselves, our relationships in the world. Those are the guiding principles that Phil shared with me that he referenced before, that are at the very heart of this idea of paddling and publishing together to create the tales of synergy from the magic canoe. And that's what's been, for me, the most exciting thing is we've got rough waters here, but we're moving from one world to another world. And it starts with the authenticity and open-heartedness and love. Let love lead the way.
Mm-hmm.
Let love lead the way.
Exactly.
I'm looking forward to it all. And we did create something new, the bridge between enlightening our way together. That's happening with MLK, because what Phil said is absolutely so. It's documented. In the 50s, MLK was helping with the tribes down in Alabama. I mean, his whole point about racial equity and justice, you know, recognize, look, with the, you know, the story he tells of the Native Americans is one more important expression about the atrocities that we committed. And the blindness to it is what's being surfaced. So this is a great time. I think we're onto something, weaving this all together, Rick. And with what you'll be doing for MLK, manifesting the dream on top of living, are we living the dream? That is the question.
Exactly.
And I think the other thing is that is love for all humanity. The love for all humanity. That is such an important thing. Not just the love of experiences he understood as someone who knew the experience of our African relatives and what happened to them from Africa, but this was about the suffering of all human beings. And I think that is just so, so key for all of us to have that sense about our human family and what's happened to us.
Exactly. And then looking at all of humanity in relationship with Mother Earth, correct? So, and that's how, what we talk about with the expanding concept of we. So it's not just the people in our circles that are closest to us, but it may include our pets and our plants and our communities, and not just all the people, all the different kinds of people, but the animals, the plants, all of life on Earth, and the ecosystems that support all of life. So we can begin to feel that kind of oneness with all, like we are one, right? That's the ultimate thing, from me to we are one, right? So
And
well,
then Milagros,
yes, go ahead.
I want to let Milagros speak. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm just honored to be on this journey with all of you. There were many years on my journey where I felt like, am I the only one in these woods? So it's just really lovely to know that we're all in this together and that we can make such a huge difference. We really, this is legacy time for a lot of us. It certainly is for me. And I really want to know that I've done the best I can to leave the world a slightly better place. So that's my desire and my intent. I'm just gonna keep 35 years later, I'm just gonna keep going. No stopping me now.
That's so great. And it makes me remember when I started We the World, all my musician friends, because I had a 35-year music career before I started We the World in 1998. So all my musician friends thought I was out of my mind. I kid you not. They thought I was nuts. So
Rick, you are. Rick, you are.
oh, good.
You just needed to be told that. I can't believe you waited all these years. No, because it is. And I want to speak to that. It's so perfect you'd say that, Milagros, because the place beyond the we that I was talking about starts to really empower each other like we haven't ever done before.
Mm-hmm.
It goes beyond the words. It really, for me, the image is we holding each other in our arms, holding you in my arms. And when you hold someone in their arms, you got to know where those spots are. Where do Summer and I call them the cold spots. Give me your cold spots. And where there needs more pressure and where it needs less. And how do we really lean into each other so we're not in these parallel streams? That's really what, for me, the way of unity is pointing towards. A depth of intimacy and recognition of, okay, let's get to it, because we've done it by ourselves for too long. It's just not working.
John, I just want to share that there was a word that came to me today, and it came to me really strong, and it was about generosity of spirit, that we're in a time where what is required is grace and generosity of spirit, so that we do move into that place that you were talking about of really releasing the need to do anything except be our best selves and honor the best selves in others, right?
Oh.
And so I really appreciate that.
I promise. I promise. Let's do it. We're all doing it. I feel it.
Yeah.
It's kind of, this is ours to do. And, you know, it's right now. So I'm not waiting.
And
Well,
we
I
are
was
the
just gonna-
ones. Go ahead.
I just have to say, I just wanted to say to Milagros that how much I think, not that she's going to be doing it, but she is doing it. You are making a difference right now in this moment, and I thank you. So
Thank you.
Me
Thank
too.
you, Shannon.
Me too. And I was going to say, we are the ones we've been waiting for. So we're stepping into that, which is so important.
And these convergences, I mean, this new medium, what COVID has done to us, I really believe has offered us an enormous opportunity, right? COVID's part of life too, right? And yet these convergences, like we're doing Enlightening Our Way Together than MLK, are opportunities to synergize, to heighten the awareness of how we're participating in this network of commitments. The work that Phil's been doing in the Amazon, the work that's happening with Indigenous people rising, the work that's happening with young people recognizing the imperiled situation we find ourselves in. And there's so much potential. It's like, I feel like called to this next level of the complexity coming into order, because we can see we've really shifted to a new world. People are never going to go back to what it was. They'll never be that way again. And it's ours to choose how we're going to make it going forward. And let's choose life, a pro-social approach that says, yes, we can stop degenerating this place and start regenerating this place like we've never done before. I feel that so strongly. And I'm so grateful to each of you. And let's do it together. Like you say, Rick, we are the world.
That's right. And we are the universe.
That's right. Don't want to limit it to the world. You can't do that anymore.
I was
okay in the early 80s.
I was talking about 10 years ago to a group of people about 11 days of global unity. And I was telling them about all the different things and all the 60 countries involved and all this stuff going on. And then I said, and I'm sorry, this is so Earth-centric. I apologize for that.
See, we're evolving. There's hope.
I can't forget the Star Nations.
That's right.
Exactly. I heard the senator from New York, Kirsten Gillibrand, I think that's her, Kirsten Gillibrand. She was talking about the making sure a bill to make sure that the UFO information is not kept secret anymore. This is like a mainstream politician. And she said, you know, it's important to that we talk about this stuff. I mean, it was so amazing to hear her say that. So anyway, I want to thank you all. This has been a fabulous gathering today. And I do want to mention that our next Welcome to We show will be in January, the second Tuesday of each month. We do that at the same time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, USA Eastern time, so January 11th. And for anyone who's watching this now in December, we want to invite you to join us for our We holiday party on the first day of Enlightening Our Way Together on the 18th. So after the drum circle, right, Brother Phil? Then we can have a big blowout party and play music and do all that. So that's starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time on the 18th.
Perfect, Rick. Perfect.
Exactly.
Perfect.
It also happens to be our dear friend Deborah Moldau's birthday on that day. And I think she might be coaxed to sing a little bit. She's got a fabulous voice. And I think Dr. Marty is going to join us she's got a fabulous voice as well. So look out for connection to everyone and all of these things coming up at we.net. And I just want to end with our dear friend Jonathan Granoff, what he said when we launched the We campaign and we.net back in 2009. He gave the keynote address, and the last thing he said is, I hope that we expand so much that there's no longer any them. So thank you all. Bye-bye.